if you have no experience of running a business, how the fuck can you expect to run a health department, a treasury, a country with £3 trillion in debt and growing? It concerns me, this blank check spending on public services. I want a Ferrari, but guess what, man? I can't afford one. I feel that we've been ignored, and the great British public, we sit there, don't we? And everyone says about our stiff upper lips, but we do take it on the chin
every time.
But I think that's starting to change now. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Orca Pods. I'm delighted to today be joined by Joe Taffurelli. Have I pronounced that?
You have, mate. Yeah, well done.
Good. Normally I do the introduction, but you have something special to tell us. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, so we're in the process of just changing name. We're not going for a full rebrand or anything like that, but yeah, it's time for us to move away from Pulse. It's quite a cluttered market for Pulse, and I think the marketing kind of guys wanted a little bit more space. So we created a word, which is basically ChatGPT did. I'm not gonna lie to you. It created many words, and we picked one. Right. But no, yeah, we wanted to create we wanted something for us. I think, we've all worked for businesses where people go, why is it called that? Why is it called this? And to be pretty honest with you, there is no reason. It's just no one else is called OVO. So, and it works well for us. And naturally, as we've been talking about the last few months, it's really embedded into the business already. And people just don't mention Pulse anymore, even though it is on the wall. We are OVO. Lots more to come. We'll be physically announcing it mid to late December.
Is it got a meaning?
No.
Okay.
No, so we get to build one,
right?
Which is kind of the point.
Blank canvas.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's kind of the point for us, is that we wanted to build something fresh, new, and that was ours, and something that we can scale with. To be pretty honest with you.
Nice. Everyone's looking for that 4-letter. That's why we dropped Orca. Well, obviously Orca Pay Group, and we dropped Pay Group just to Orca. Yeah,
absolutely. And I wanted to avoid the 3-letter acronyms and all that sort of stuff. So we've definitely gone in for it's something, it rolls off the tongue. It's quite easy.
Yeah, it is.
And it's really looking good, and all the merch that I'm seeing and the website and all that. It's looking really good, mate.
Good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for that's a bit of an exclusive. So
it is.
Genuinely appreciate that as well. You know this off air, but for anyone listening, my wife is 3 weeks from giving birth. So my phone is actually on the table. If I get a WhatsApp and a text message, this episode will be cut short. I do apologise, but there are more important things in life. I'm not missing the birth of my daughter.
Absolutely.
Toffee. So look, mate, I've been, thanks for your patience as well in terms of coming on, and for putting up with my back and forth. Look, nothing's changed in terms of what we've really come here to talk about. I think with the exception of, obviously, the budget has happened.
Yes.
So should we just go Pete Tong on the budget for 10 minutes and then
we'll
get into the main crux of what we're here to talk about, and what I think what's lovely about having someone like yourself on is, one, your industry pedigree, your length of time in our industry. We haven't actually had an umbrella come on sort of discuss the impact that JSL, the Employment Rights Bill, have had specifically on umbrella companies. We've heard from compliance, legal, Simon Bliss from Team, but not actually someone in the industry. So I thought it'd be good to sort of get your insights. You're very well connected as well, both not just in the industry but government level as well. So you happy to go in that sort of order?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no worries.
Right, let's ruin the budget then. What were your thoughts?
Well, I think it was anticlimactical. Let's be brutally honest with you. There wasn't too much in there that I think people were not expecting. I think personally, regardless of what they say, it was an attack on business again. Whether that's the changes in the way that they're structuring how we can offset some taxes and that sort of stuff. But ultimately, it's just a massive attack on everything that we try to do as any business. We'd all try to do the best for our employees, right? If we don't, we won't have anyone. We don't have a business. Simple. It's not exactly rocket science. So things like the raid and on salary sacrifice, I think that's probably the biggest kicker, I think, in our respective businesses, because we've all done the right thing. I've had I've paid for financial advisors to come in and sit down with my team, whether that's someone on the phones or whether it's our sales directors or whatever it might be, and to sit down and go through their tax planning, because it's really important. I think we're in the world of payroll, so obviously we are a little bit geeky about it, but it's really important that we listen to what's said, we plan for the future. We can't just rely on the state pension. So we've all done what we were told to do, and now it feels like we're being punished, both on a personal level and a business level. It's a lot of NI, that's going to have to be found.
I couldn't agree more.
We haven't done the maths yet, but I think, fag packets, just for our business, what have we got? 55 sort of head office staff in total. It's going to come out at, I reckon, at least 10 or 15 grand a month.
In terms of additional costs?
Yeah.
I thought it was lunacy. I think they know exactly what they're doing. And people are going to be like, this is just Rob Sharp's opinion. It's communism 101, mate. Like, I wholeheartedly now believe that. First budget, get rid of the wealth. How many people have exited the UK? Second budget, in essence, you're making the individuals in the state reliant on the state. I think it's going to set us back, or has the potential to set us back 30, 40, 50 years.
No, I get that.
In terms of, someone said to me about the 2-child cap. And I think for me, where we have got this divide now of working class wealth, like let's attack wealth or let's attack working, dependent on, let's be fair, the last 100 years has predominantly been Labour and the Conservatives. There's no balance anymore. And listen, if you and I walk out to the street after this podcast and someone rolled up to us and said, I'm going to give you 15 grand a month for nothing. Why should you not take that? Why should I not take that? So I don't blame the people of our country if someone's giving that to you, but that's deadly. We're £3 trillion in debt and growing. And
that's the scary bit. There's no plan to see it reduced.
And when businesses and individuals alike, we should pay tax. I understand what that's for. That's for our elderly. That's for our most vulnerable. That's for those that are disabled, mental health, hospitals. Listen, the last 6 months, exactly. The NHS have been wonderful. I want to pay my fair share. But at what point does it come, the tipping point come where this is just wildly unaffordable? What's also happening is the very people that they're supposedly saying that they're representing, it's always a race to the bottom. Unemployment is at its highest levels in God knows how long. You're now, again, the attack on business. Oh, the living wage went up. Yeah, and that's why a loaf of bread costs £2.70. So the optics of that might look fantastic. The reality for everyone is it's going to end up in your shopping, your energy, or the energy, I think, was the only good thing that they did in terms of there is some savings on that. But your internet costs, everything else, it's that fiscal drag. And I'm sorry, we just got lied to. We have been absolutely and utterly lied to. Freezing the thresholds. That has raised income tax.
It has.
Let's be blunt. It has. Part of your manifesto promise was that you would not do that. Farmers, there's just list after list after list. But there was lots of Kemi Badenoch went back and said you were incompetent. I don't believe that. I believe that they are acutely aware of what they're doing. And I've got some of my friends are the most staunch Labour supporters who have turned around to me and said, like, never, ever again. So, and I think, again, now for business, we've already seen it. In fact, we had a client wanted to recruit for 5 people. Now it's 3. Or it's 2. So actually, these people, we can't actually see, or I don't know if there's their data metrics of people that may be unemployed, but now are still going to remain unemployed because those jobs aren't available.
I do. I think, there's a few things in there for me. I mean, I think me and you, we're quite comfortable to say we're probably both highest rate taxpayers.
Yep.
I was willing to pay more.
100%.
PAYE. I don't have a problem at all with the remove of the two child benefit cap, et cetera, all those measures that I think are good. I wholeheartedly support it. What I've got a problem with is how we're generating the income to pay for it. So if they would have thrown on a couple of % for the likes of me and you, we're not going to starve. Okay, we'd be annoyed, but at the same time, we both probably know it's the right thing to do for the country at the moment. It's and I think they just it was a choice that was made, and that choice felt very much political dogma over economic sort of theory, and that is where I get concerned, is when politics really starts playing with the economy. That is quite radical and something that we should try to avoid, in my opinion.
I agree. Well, let's be honest, it was an appeasement for their party, that budget, for one. I think we also need to stop living in this fantasy world that we live in a democracy. We don't. We might get a vote, but the minute that we vote that party in, we get no say-so whatsoever, as demonstrated with pubs, hospitality, business in its own right after the first budget. She said she would never, ever come back.
Very true.
Now, that first budget was 32 billion. This one was 26.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a £6 billion difference. But at that level of monies, we're talking about
money.
Well, it's pocket change in comparison. So if you look side by side, 32, 26, that is a hell of a but I think secondary comeback.
For me, you've hit the nail on the head. Is at the start that the debt is it's 10% of our national spend now. So what's that going to be in 10 years when we are about to break even? I couldn't run a business like that. And I can't run a house like that.
Well, we don't as well.
No, we don't. Thank God.
Yeah. We wouldn't have a business.
We wouldn't have a business. We wouldn't have jobs at least.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, there needs to be something. I want to know what the plan is to reduce the debt, not reduce the deficit. Because all we're doing is adding to it. It's a bit like when they celebrate inflation isn't as high. Well, it's not negative inflation. Things haven't got cheaper. They're just not as expensive, slower. And I think, it's that kind of, where is the plan? Yeah. And I've been saying for quite a while, I wrote a blog on the budget, and I was quite brutal in it. I think I was quite honest. I probably haven't made any friends with my local MPs, but at the same time, it's how I felt. I might have been hangry when I wrote it. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little bit punchy, but at the same time, it's like, why are we punishing the nurses, the teachers, the office workers, when we're still not taxing? And this is my opinion, not my business's opinion, but, the super rich are pretty untouched again. Capital gains tax, I think, should have been normalised. I know me and you are probably very different places about
this. Because of what they already pay. So everyone thinks Scandinavia, for example, they have, in comparison from head to toe, you would look at that on paper and think, "Whoa, that's brutal." But the highest tax is the UK, and the wealthy contribute most of that. Now, I appreciate your argument, and I very much stand alongside you in what you've said. But that, for me, is where the balance is completely warped. If the wealthy leave, and the surplus, and what they take with them, right, that leaves a deficit. Who pays that deficit? We do.
Yeah, no, I don't. So that's disagree with that premise.
My point is,
I'm more of the opinion that most of them won't leave. They would have left by now if they were going to leave. Not many. Not as. I don't think it's that many. I don't. No, I don't. And not particularly. And if they are still wealth generators, they're still generating wealth in the UK. I think there are ways that we can do it. For example, we're the only G7 country that doesn't have an exit tax. That's wild. I don't know why we don't. If every other G7 country can do it, why can't we do it?
Because there was talk she was going to bring that in, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was rumours, but then nothing again. And there was nothing on the capital gains, which I was shocked about. I really thought they would at least look to bring capital gains tax in line with income tax, or at least start that journey. I don't know. Someone's obviously better at lobbying than we are.
And that's the problem. Yeah. Is, mate, it's like what you said, like everything that we've been told to do, we're now being punished for.
Yep.
So I said to you off air, like one of my members of staff has received an invoice from HMRC for an amount on the interest that they've earned, on their savings. Those savings have already been taxed. Their salary.
Yeah, I agree. I really dislike
pension now in 2027. If I died, like Amy, my wife wouldn't get my pension. They take 40, well, depending on what the value was. Yeah. So it wouldn't be 40%. But in some instances, you've got £1 million, they get 400 grand. For what? That's stealing from the dead. Sorry, that's how I view it. So there has to be, and there isn't a long-term strategy.
No,
not
that's
one that
what
I
worries
see.
me. Yeah.
Where, we've got our junior doctors on strike. Again,
yeah.
14th time in something like 3 years.
Yeah.
And it concerns me, this blank check spending on public services. I want a Ferrari, but guess what, man? I can't afford one. So I'm not going to have one. There has to be some sensibility in that. And I think that's what my concern is, and just the utter, I feel that we've been ignored. And the great British public, we sit there, don't we? And everyone says about our stiff upper lips, but we do take it on the chin.
Every time.
But I think that's starting to change now. And
it is, but you're seeing that, I think you're seeing that reflected in social media. You're seeing that reflected in the younger generation with the move to the Greens or reform. That polarisation of kind of politics is quite scary as someone who's coming into their 40s. My sort of, I've been very much used to a two-party system my entire life, right? So it is actually quite scary, this polarisation at either end. But I do think that the reason being is both those polarising entities have now something that the central parties haven't, which is hope. There is no hope when you listen to a chancellor's speech or a prime minister's speech. It'd be like me and you going in doing a town hall meeting with our businesses and just talking about all the negative stuff, and then walking out and wondering why everyone's feeling a bit negative.
But the world's run by narratives now and scare tactics, aren't they?
But we can change it. You can change. We've done it. We've moved businesses. We've moved people. Fair enough, bigger scale. But we need to bring hope back in, or else we're just going to talk ourselves into more and more recessions. Yeah, it's easily done. We're in a service-based industry. If everyone's negative, it's going to depress everything: performance, productivity. If we're positive, people work harder. I don't really get why that's lost at the most senior levels.
I read something yesterday about, so in business you have a CFO who is financially trained, so in the most layman terms. If you look at the whole of the Labour front bench, so the main MPs, none of them have ever worked in the private sector, with the exception of Rachel Reeves. It's alleged that she's lied on her CV about what she actually did. Yeah. And actually I was really, I guess, really took my attention. Have we simply put in people that have, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that they're not intelligent people. If you have no experience of running a business, how the fuck can you expect to run a health department, a treasury, a country? Yeah. And their argument was, now I wasn't alive, but back when he was, I think, sort of younger or our age, politicians were like they were economists. They were people that had worked in a health sort of environment. They were people that actually had expertise of the field that they went in. Is it right that we should be electing, or his point was, should we return to electing like those, almost like when you're going for a CEO job, or you're getting the creme de la creme, depending on the sort of business you are. Let's say Google was looking for a CEO. Let's have it right here. By and large, they're going to pretty much have their pick. So you're getting best in class, and you're putting best in class in there. And the argument from him was, is that something that this country should be looking at and return to? Now, there's a lot more knowledgeable and better equipped people to answer that than me. But it certainly made me think, I was like, Yeah,
I think, for me, sort of that sort of technocrat kind of style of government, I get it. I think there should be a balance. There should be a balance. And the technocrat is meant to be that permanent secretary that's sitting in the Department for Health. or the Department for Work and Pensions or Ministry of Defence, they are meant to be the subject experts. And my understanding is that, ministers are supposed to go in a set direction.
Yes.
And walk away and not be operationally involved. Very much like a board of directors. We're not supposed to be operationally involved, or as least as little as possible, because we're not the experts. We're supposed to set kind of the direction or the goals or the strategy and walk away, and let the team get on with it. I think there maybe is too much ministerial input in operations, and that's maybe what's causing some of the issues. But I get at the same time, if you're not trained in that way, like me and you have done over the last 15, 20 years of getting to where we are, some of them have walked in, they were career politicians. You're quite right. They've done uni, they maybe sat on a council and been a councillor and done some other jobs. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in charge of the Department for Health.
Yeah. Or the Treasury.
I get it.
Service department.
I get it. You probably walk in, there is sometimes you walk into your team, don't you? You can hear a phone call and you think, I could help answer that question.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't necessarily dive in feet first.
But great leaders surround themselves with much more expert individuals.
Absolutely.
And I listened to President Obama, and I get so much leadership skills from him, because that's what he said. He's like, I was a great speaker. I was confident when I was addressing hundreds of thousands of people or the world, but he surrounded himself with serious experts. Like you've said, people that were actually like flag bearers for said department or specialist subject. Listen, it's no coincidence. Like, my business partner is the genius behind Orca. I'm not. I'm the mad scientist, but I would sit here and I'm comfortable doing something like this.
Yeah.
The brains is not me. The brains is who are in the office, but I love that because they let me be me, and our business is our business because I let them be them in the same way that you will do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't want to spend too much longer on this now, but do you think that we're in need of an overhaul? I wanted to say radical. I'm going to say radical because I think the tax system is so outdated.
It is.
Our political system is so outdated. You're looking at potentially a party that comes along and says, right, do you know what? We're going to look at from head to toe and we're going to modernise our tax system, our political system,
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think, most nations go in sort of 100-year sprints, don't they, of, go from one world war or some massive event.
Yeah.
I reckon we're there. I reckon we've had some massive events, COVID obviously being one, that the kind of shaking of our democracy, which is what you're experiencing right now. Yes, I do think so. I don't necessarily want to I'm not looking forward to the fight that's going to get us there, because I think it will be difficult and I think it will be polarising, and that's something this country doesn't, like we said, we're British, we kind of just get on with it and smile and nod and moan about it on the bus. We don't necessarily take to the streets, right? That's not something this country does, but we've started to see that, and that's worrying. We've stopped
having dialogue though, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's across the world, and social media is an enormous part of that. I'm not on social media, so when I say we, I'm probably being a bit negligent in what I'm saying, but I've seen people literally garner an opinion from a headline on Facebook 100%. Or Instagram.
100%. We're all in these bubbles.
Yeah, and I challenge them and say bro, you're telling me that you believe it? Well, it's on Instagram. It must be true.
It must be true. Yeah.
And I don't blame them for that. And then when you try and have dialogue, it's like, no, this is my opinion, which, like you say, just makes things a little bit more difficult.
It does. Definitely does.
Okay. So we put the world to rights.
Right. We're not running for office anytime soon, mate.
No, I don't know. To be fair, I'm weighing it up. Someone dared me the other day, but then I think about my history and my past. There's not a chance that's going to happen.
I think,
the media have had a field day with me, mate. So
then let them. But that's the radical change. We need real people. Real people make mistakes, and career politicians do, but it gets covered up. I think there's a big difference.
Said that. I think that the humanity in our politicians is utterly gone.
It's devoid. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I've been homeless. Like, I've not going to go into the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know, I've had mental health issues. I've, you know, done things that I shouldn't have done with substances that I shouldn't have done, you know. But that's actually 100%. Would I do it now? No.
That's the thing.
Like, and so I can tell you what that's like. And I've, you know, I resent the fact that, am I middle class in terms of how society wants to label her? I've been working since I was 16 years old. Like, in the summer, I used to go and work for double glazing companies with the old yellow pages. And sorry for anyone who might be watching things that I found them. Oh, mate, honestly, you just go through the phone book, like phone, bang, bang, bang. You know, like, so I begrudge terminology, and I think I hate that. I hate that we've got a working class, a middle class, the wealthy. Like, let's do away with that and just look at, we are people.
Yeah.
How do we help where we all are as a society and have some balance?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob Sharp for Prime Minister?
Do it,
what
mate.
Do you recken, Joe?
Yeah, I'm not doing Chancellor. That's a
I was going to say.
Poison shadows.
No, yeah, don't do that. Right, okay. Probably brings us nicely on to 2026 and JSL.
Yeah, the big one, eh?
Go on. What you go,
mate? I have been calling. I think this is a stepping stone. JSL. Okay. I do to proper regulation of our space at last. 2027,
it's muted, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that'll be delayed.
Okay.
I do. I don't think there'll be the money to do it. But ultimately, JSL, you know, when we started this process of all the consultations, Christ, what was that 4 or 5 years ago? Maybe longer.
I think longer.
Maybe longer, 6 or 7 years ago, I think.
As long as I can remember, put it that way.
Well, we've been shouting about it. And I mean, you and, you know, I've been shouting about it for 15 years nearly in this industry, that we need to regulate this space. So, yeah, I'm very pleased that we're moving there. But it was quite telling that rapidly when the consultation started, it was very much about actually the workers and the contractors, right? That's where it was. And that's what, if we look at the consultation documents, that's what we're all feeding back on. It was telling that how rapidly they went. In fact, it was Labour who did this.
Yeah.
We're setting that aside and actually we're going for the tax.
Yes, it's option 3, wasn't it?
Yeah. And they went straight in for tax first. And they're looking to do it. Like we say, you know, we're at the forefront of the industry and we're saying might be 27, probably not. You know, it shows that actually was the priority, the contractor and the worker. I don't think it was. I think the priority was always tax intake.
But do you think, I agree with you. I think the Dukas case, if you look at when that actually came into the public eye, it wasn't long after Labour had got in.
It was perfectly the worst timed.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, and bear in mind, only 23% of that, so that figure of 172 million was based on 23% of audited accounts at that point by HMRC. So, okay, if we're looking at that being, let's round the numbers up, 25%, you're looking at nearly £600 million if the allegations were correct. So I don't believe that was an accident. That I think it would have continued going down the path that we were all, you know, our conversations with multiple government departments. There was absolutely no inclination of option 3 whatsoever.
No, it was put in as a kind of choose a second one.
Yeah.
That's why it was put in. I know it was. It was put in as an outsider. So
because it was so extreme to what everything else was by comparison, that it was almost like you say, it was like, well, we'll put that because no one's choosing that, and then bang, it came in. But I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe it was because of Dukas.
Yeah, I can see how that's
been told it was.
I can. Yeah, I'm not debating that. Yeah, I think you're right. It was a very. I think option 3 hasn't come in. A version of option 3 has come in. So I think, you know, option 3 was insane, and written to appear so actually. So yeah, a version of option 3. Look, we are where we are. We're also not, you know, we've been in this sort of situation before. actually, when they did the onshore intermediary legislation, they actually overnight just flipped where the responsibility lied with and created intermediary number one. I don't know if you remember that, but
I don't actually.
So back on onshore intermediary legislation, which was looking at reducing full self-employment, and this was 2014, I think, maybe 15. Someone correct me. They said that
it was 2014. Actually.
Intermediary number one, i.e., the entity closest to the end client that's receiving obviously the benefit of the work, is responsible for making the determination, and therefore is also responsible for the tax if an incorrect determination is made. So all of a sudden there was a big shift, particularly with CIS workers and self-employed workers, where agencies now became intermediary number one and were very, very nervous, quite rightly, and just said no self-employment, no CIS. A little bit like they did with R35, no PSCs. So we have been there before. What has happened is there's always a period of time where it's quite strict, and then there's a realization that actually business as usual wasn't that bad. And we start to see you're starting to see the rise of PSCs again in certain sectors already. So we are starting to see things come in cycles, and I think JSL will be similar. I think there will be a very similar knee-jerk reaction by some entities to either say, actually, I don't think anyone's going to say no umbrella, because everyone's realised that the purported umbrella element of legislation blows out of the water. There's always an umbrella.
And whether that's the agency or MSP or us, the umbrella.
Absolutely. So I do think there's going to be an umbrella. I think there's definitely be consolidation in the market. There's definitely going to be reduced PSLs. There's definitely be more control and oversight. And absolutely, I applaud that. And I'd expect it. I always remember talking about, when I worked in my previous job for a large umbrella, we dealt with 140 to 200 agencies at any one time. Every single year, only one of those agencies ever came on site, and one agency only ever looked at our balance sheet. No one else looked at our financial stability. Yeah, and that's insane.
Well, it is. Look, I think let's JSL primarily has been introduced to put the foot on the throat of, I ain't calling them umbrella companies, payroll entities that, I know I said this to you off air, but I'm going to repeat it, that are steering funds deliberately away from the Treasury. Fact. That's why there is the version of option 3, and you alluded to it, tax. Correct. We've just been talking about the budget and how we're £3 trillion in debt as a country. HMRC and government haven't been honest about how much money the Treasury loses. We're talking multiple billions every single year. Fact. They can't publish the optics of that because of all the shit that they'll take for it. Okay, fair enough. So that is primarily why that's been introduced. I think what the genius of it is that what it then enables them to actually still go after in the event of a mistake has been made, in the event of like if a business, for example, goes under, and let's be fair, there's been countless examples given by various different people in the last 6 or 7 months. So it means that the coffers can always be, I say replenished, but it means they can go and get what they should from someone else in that chain. Balance sheets, financial stability. Look, I get why there's that argument. I get that why there is a collective going out and saying that. Not so sure that balance sheets, like we're seeing credit terms. Okay, so JSL is about mitigating risk. Credit introduces it to a certain degree. Now, we look at an umbrella company that's gone under recently. I'm not going to name who they are. You'll know who I'm talking about. The agency in question, there wasn't credit terms in place. Evidently, it was a large number of contractors that they then went out of business because the agency didn't pay them. And I get that it works both ways, where if the umbrella doesn't do that, the agency, I spoke to a medical agency the other day, they got nailed with the Ducasse element. It cost that agency £150,000 to pay the contractors for 2 weeks. So in a spirit of balance and fairness, I'm not pinpointing an agency or I'm not an umbrella. I think we need to be careful in terms of, I think you're right about stability. I think we need to be careful in terms of what the advice around that is.
Yeah. No, yeah, I do get it. It's not the be all and end all. And I think any of the strongest balance sheets in our industry would only suffer 1 to 2 agency
100%.
losses. So yeah, I'm not saying it's the be all and end all. It's a really good starting place.
I agree.
And has been ignored for the last 15 years, nearly entirely. I think, I mean, that I think there's some issues around credit. Credit is definitely becoming a way that agencies are making themselves more comfortable with the financial risk that they're on for the PUA and NICs. I get that.
Yes,
I totally do. What I would say is that's fine. I'm a responsible business owner and shareholder and director. I'm going to be insuring that risk. And you need to work with me to let me insure your risk. For example, you need to have a positive balance sheet in order for me to gain insurance. So I think me and you, I'm not sure what your position is on credit.
Never offered it.
My
Never
position
would.
is, yes, we can do credit. It's cash. We get it. However, it's insured. And that is the most important thing.
Agreed. But this is what JSL is actually, I think this is what we should really be talking to businesses about, is exactly what you've said there. That's the question. I can indemnify any client for £1 million because I don't offer credit. Never have, never will. We've just been talking about the budget. Economically, the volatility of business and through the fault of government come April next year is going to be enormous. I honestly believe that insurers are going to potentially walk away from insuring us. So where does that then? So you've just said it there. No one is bulletproof.
No.
And we'll get onto bulletproof and other elements in a little while. It's about how can we mitigate, or the supply chain mitigates that risk to the best of their ability. But then you've almost got the Esther scenario. So, on an Esther, when you go into, are you a terrorist? Yeah. Yes, I am. Like, no one's putting that, are they?
No, we're all marking our own homework.
100%. So how do we help? I'm having conversations and I'm saying to businesses, we don't offer credit. So we just lost an opportunity because we don't. I'm like, that's cool. But go and ask and make sure that if you are going to get it, that the umbrellas that you're dealing with are actually demonstrating or can demonstrate that is insured.
Yes.
Because JSL is going to require and demand that whoever you partner with is making good, sensible, correct, responsible business decisions.
Yeah.
Now, that's going to, again, you look at that umbrella company we were talking about there, through no fault of their own. But if I'm the business owner and 1 week that's 10 grand that's out of our pocket, that's not going to 30, 40, and then $250,000, $500,000, $750,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's where I don't think there's been enough advice given on, like umbrellas, we're going to have to raise our margins, mate. You've got the employment rights bill, just additional costs, sick pay from day one, for example, for umbrella companies. It's going to be abused. Fact. So it's not just about, we're insuring credit. It's also about economically, what decisions are you making first and foremost for our business as the umbrella that then isn't going to affect, if let's say you had 100 contractors that all go sick 1 week, I know that's highly unlikely, but in fact, you guys work well, all the big guns, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, appreciate that some of you will be able to afford that for a couple more months than others. But if you've actually got the right margin and you're setting that aside, then economically, you're making a responsible decision, first and foremost for your business, but then also for the recruitment agencies or the end client or the MSPs that you're working with.
Absolutely. And I think, a good run umbrella, it protects the supply chain. And, it's what we're good at. I sit here with you because I trust you as an umbrella, and, you're sitting with me because you trust me. We're not going to do or make, poor decisions. But I would say, you're right. We're talking an industry that's at a decade of erosion of its margin, of a raid on its income. I don't think any of us particularly recovered well from COVID.
No.
Furlough was a brilliant government scheme. It still cost us money. And it probably, I can tell you, it definitely cost us money,
Cost me £250,000, mate.
Yeah, I don't work for the business anymore, so I can't talk about the finances. It hurt.
Yeah, badly.
We chose to keep our staff on because do you know what? We're payrolling at the time. We still had about 1,100 nurses. I couldn't furlough my payroll staff.
No,
but I couldn't get any margin. So it was rough. It was a real rough time. And we're not over that. And we just rolled into disaster after disaster. So yeah, I think what you're saying, we do need to have adult grown-up conversations. It is no longer about what's your timesheet processing fee and who's got the cheapest margin. If that is the conversation, that's not business that I think me or you would want.
No, I was going to say, you're probably speaking to the wrong umbrella.
Talk to someone else. I can probably give you some names, but don't then expect that there's going to not be another failure, because you can't do what we do on. I'm still seeing margins sub £12, £10.
Yeah.
You can't do it. No. I've done this for 15 years. Trust me, you can't. Whether you've got 100 workers or 3, 4, 5, 10,000, you can't do it on that much. So there are land grabs. I know there are land grabs going on with some of the bigger guys at the moment, and they can afford to take a hit. Fine.
But one or two. And this is what I mean is, and sorry for cutting across you there, but talk about narratives at the moment. I've been pretty ashamed of how, by and large, collectively, we've really operated. Certainly in the last 3 months, I really have. Because you're right. Listen, competition, all for.
Yeah,
if you're better
always.
than me, I'm going home and I'm sitting there thinking, right, how am I going to be better than you?
Yeah.
But some of the, quite frankly, garbage that I'm seeing trucked out is fucking negligent, mate.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
I've sworn there because that's the only way I can emphasise it. I thought that this would be the one time where, as an industry, we would finally sit there and say, right, these are what everyone agrees you should be looking at. But I get it's about also exterminating your competition.
Is it?
I'm not a fan of it, mate.
I don't do that.
Right.
I've never done that. You know that.
Cool. So, I'm not suggesting that you were, but I'm not going to speak for anyone else. So only be me. And like I say, I mean, I think it's harming us. I had 2 meetings last week, and both directors of each meeting was like, Rob, do I believe you? Do I believe them? Do I believe them? Do I believe them? And that's happening more and more.
Yeah. And
it's becoming quite telling that that's at a time where we should be going in. And if you go in a boardroom before me and I go in after you, it might be about margin. It might be about your service offering. Yeah. But I think we should be telling them this for JSL should be this.
Yeah.
This is how you protect your supply chain.
But I think some of that will only come about when the later regulation happens, because then there will be an industry body. And I'm not talking about, just a membership body. I'm talking about an industry body. Yeah. We don't have one. And this is then the outcome. The outcome is there isn't one voice. There are 2 or 3 probably voices, and then a lot of people that are outside of even membership bodies that then add their own voice. Yep. And I think that is something we just got to be aware of, and I do hope that when regulation comes, and it will, I'm sure it will.
Yep. I think that they know they have to.
We need a body that goes with it. Whether that is some form of one of the existing membership bodies, I don't know. I don't particularly have any, my hat's not in the ring on that. I don't really have a preference, but we do need one body. If you look at the recruitment industry,
Yep.
the REC is a very strong voice, and it has that position that it can do that. I think ultimately, we do need one voice. I thought they did well coming together, the current membership bodies and the some software providers and SafeRec, etc. They did all come together. And then I thought, this is really interesting. Where they're going to go with this, and then it just dissipated again.
Well, it blew up, didn't it? Really. I think. Look, and I think what the narratives that and why I'm saying I'm a bit ashamed is because I feel that we've created a narrative now for a lot of what I see. In fact, let's say that don't trust any umbrella, don't trust any agency. Someone's getting ripped off here. Someone's not paying. Man, I've been doing this for 10 years. This is for my daughter.
Yeah.
Like, I've listen, we were the first to ever be SafeRec certified. And I think I'm going to say something that, sorry, Sebastian, you're probably not going to like it, but I didn't go I went SafeRec because I believed in the product, but I went SafeRec before anyone else because I felt that it benefited Orca, that it told my clients that everything we're telling you we're doing, here is proof now that we are doing it.
Yeah.
I think we've become so reliant on technology platforms. Don't get me wrong, I think they're vitally important. But we've detracted from the fact that you've been SafeRec or whoever, like if you've gone VeriPay or if someone's gone for, like whatever it might be, because you as a business has chosen to do that. If you don't do it, if I don't do it, SafeRec, VeriPay, Fortis, they don't have a business. But that doesn't seem to be taken into account. Like that is an umbrella company choosing wholeheartedly, talking about lifting up the bonnet, opening all the doors so that you, our supply chains, know that we're doing everything we should be doing. And you alluded to the land grabs. Like, I'm with you on that. I don't care whether a client wants to use SafeRec, VeriPay, Fortis. That is their God-given right to do so. Like, and if that's what they choose, so be it. But let's not just start torching each other.
No, definitely. Yeah.
And saying, oh, well, like that doesn't do anyone any favours because now everyone's shitting a brick thinking, well, can I trust them? Can I trust them? Can I trust them? Doesn't matter how big, small, medium you are. And that's wrong.
Yeah.
That is, in my opinion, categorically wrong.
Yeah.
And that I think is what I've been most disappointed about.
And I think that can only be combated with more collaboration in our space. I think, when I was in my previous role, it did feel very polarized in that respect that you were FCSA or you weren't.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of that. I joined the FCSA. My previous role, we were member number 6, so we weren't on the founding 5, but we were the 6th.
Right.
So we were the first non-founding member, and it was you're in a bubble, and it's really hard when you're in that FCSA bubble. I know me and you have spoke about this, and because you are spoon-fed lots and lots and lots of advice from the big players or the EY, JMW, BDO, and then you've got the players that are kind of outside your bubble. And I never had the opinion that meant they were all dodgy. It didn't. It meant they made a decision for their business not to join that membership body because the FCSA is a membership body. Yeah. It is not a trade, completely independent trade body. And I think, that is something that we are desperately in need of because we do need that voice that is completely impartial and just talks for all of us. And pulls all that advice in that maybe you would give them, I would give them, EY would give them, BDO, whoever it might be, JMW, Safaris, pull that all in and come up with that, okay, as an industry, this is the narrative. And that's what I think REC does extremely well for recruitment. Yep. I think, I know APSCO is a massive player, but REC do seem to have that direct government relationship that, and that's something that is, I think, lacking at the moment in our space. I'm not pitching for a job, by the way. I don't want that job, man. No, I don't want that job, but I do think someone should do, that is what we need. That there is no, You know, I don't know how it's funded. I don't know whether because obviously it's going to have to get membership fees. So,
but then if I was an umbrella, like let's listen. You've given the FCSA as an example.
Yeah.
People are going to think he's not just said this, but I'd pay £1,500 to be a member of the FCSA to go and lobby on my behalf to be that voice. I'm sure how many there's 1,000 umbrellas is there, 1,500 however many there is. I'm pretty sure most would do that to have literally a uniform opinion. Mm-hmm. I have no doubts about that whatsoever. You know, look, like you said, we've spoken about it. I never had anything against the FCSA per se. It was the narratives. It was someone posting on LinkedIn, anyone that isn't FCSA, and this is pretty much verbatim, anyone who isn't FCSA is non-compliant. Well, how can she say that when
that's not
right? So
that's not right.
And this is where we've almost replaced that argument of FCSA or professional passport with now Safe Rec or VeriPay or whatever it, or Fortis, whatever it might be. We've just done all of that for 15 years.
Didn't. Yeah.
And that's
did no one learn.
And that's my point. Is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, knowing you're going to get a different, thinking you're going to get a different result. The definition of stupidity is doing the same thing and knowing you're getting the same result. Yeah. And here we are again. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? No, I do. I think, you know, it is something that we need to be aware of. And it is a time where people are, you know, the industry is flatlined. You know, if recruitment's gone backwards, it's good that we've only flatlined, I think, in our industry. You know, I think when I speak to most umbrellas, they haven't overly shrunk, but they flatlined. But that does mean that it is more competitive out there. For each other. Whilst we're very, very collaborative as an industry, we are also very competitive as an industry. And I think, you know, everyone seems to be holding their breath. Everyone's holding it for the budget. Yeah, it's done now. Yeah. Now everyone's on Christmas. And then, but I do think New Year. We're already starting to engage in conversations now where businesses are making decisions. Yes. I do think that there's going to be some potential tweaks to the JSL legislation. I mean, in the document that we got after the budget, you know, some smart lawyer's going to look at that and go, well, that's reading like this. You know what? There's always going to be small tweaks. I'm still keen to understand how HMRC collect revenues. Obviously, we know about the Regulation 80. We know that if you receive a Regulation 80, you get 30 days to appeal. If you don't, then whatever they issue you. Yeah, it's tough. That's it. So I think once we've got that, and my understanding is that we're looking at no later than the middle of this month. Yes. So just under 2 weeks now. I think everyone will enjoy Christmas. I think, and then come January, I think you're going to start seeing decisions made. Question for you, right? I was thinking about this on the train up. Have we gone into a deep dive in JSL, and are we overcomplicating it? Why do umbrellas not just pay on account each and every week? So the agency sends us the money on a Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. They do in your case. Right, okay. So that's the big difference. Right, so that's a good point. So in my case, every single agency pays us on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Yeah. We pay the contractors on a Friday. We can run a report on that Friday of what the PAY and IC liabilities are. We can make that payment to HMRC on Monday. Yeah. We can then provide bank account proof. Now, I've spoken to HMRC about this to also try and see if we can get something from HMRC sent. Like a receipt. In essence. Yeah. Right. So let's say then that we do a full payment submission on the 5th of each month, I think it is. By the 15th, all that data is on your HMRC account. So by the 22nd, when they come to, even if you've underpaid, they assured me that in most instances it'd be an overpayment. I'm not sure. Which you won't get back. No. And I wouldn't trust them that it'd be an overpayment. But what they're saying is there's an insurance policy there from the 15th anyway, that if, let's say it was £1,000 under, they just take the £1,000 direct debit. You have an absolutely risk-free supply chain.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all.
Do you think that's somewhere that
I think it's fine if
as an industry
you've
we will
got
go?
if there's enough cash. Cash is the biggest problem in our industry that no one's that people just don't talk about. I, for example, have not probably signed any substantial agency on that's got north of 150 contractors without terms.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying it's their fault because actually they only have terms because their clients demand it.
Yeah.
And some of them clients are the government. So, ultimately a lot of them, look, or the NHS trusts or anything like that, they demand terms. Yeah. So there isn't the cash in the supply chain to do that verbatim and everywhere.
But that's what factoring finance is for, as someone said to me the other day.
Yeah, no, it is. But there are not many factoring companies that will support recruitment because there's not enough on the balance sheets to protect them.
So this is where we then get back to the volatility.
To the insurance. So it is a vicious cycle that will be resolved because that's what markets do. It's just how we go about that, I think, over the next few years. But I completely agree with you. Yes, you could pay on account all the time. It's something that we've explored for our cash-only customers, but at the same time, when you then bring that up to the client, it's not they don't care. They do care, but that's quite a manual process to verify or to kind of store that information and receive that information. So I think it would work, and they would maybe be interested in it for maybe the first operational year, and then something else will happen. More ERB stuff will happen, and then it will wane.
But I think
that's what.
But even if it's a trust builder.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, HMRC, when I asked them, are like, of course you can. Well, of course you're going to say that. Yeah. Like, because you get the interest and you're getting that money before anyone else. But we talk about, again, JSL. JSL, the more I think about it, is genius because what it's going to require business owners or leaders of businesses, we've alluded to it, decisions that we make, how we run our business, the questions we have to ask our supply chains in return. Some of them are tough. Yeah. I've got clients that have still won't ask the questions that they know they need to ask. And we're like, you need to ask it. Yeah. Because do you know what? Like if we get removed from the chain, you're the purported umbrella. Yep. So does your client know that they would actually be the ones that the liabilities would fall on? No. It's a pretty big fucking question.
And they're starting to know because I'm starting to hear from more end clients.
Agreed.
That actually, so there's actually quite a large segment in the market that you don't utilize recruitment agencies as recruiters. Actually, there's actually quite a large amount of end clients that do all their own recruitment, but use them simply to pay off payroll.
Well, that's because
that's it.
So there's a vehicle in there. Yeah.
They're now starting to, because of this press, and it's got we're in the standard press, not just Recruiter magazine.
No,
it's in BBC, Independent, Guardian, Mail. They're starting to actually know our industry exists. So I've already had 2 or 3 meetings with pretty large users of temporary labour that traditionally only use their recruiter to payroll. And they've sort of said, well, what is it you guys do? What is an umbrella? What is what do you do? And that is actually a definitely a part of the market that's always been closed out to us that is definitely open, and that it shouldn't be a risk to recruiters. When I've spoken to, I've been in the meetings with the recruiter. The recruiter's like, we don't really want this risk. Because we want to recruit and charge more. Can you take that off our hands?
And this is what I mean about the seeds of distrust that in lots of the narratives that I've read or I've seen published, or I've been into meetings after someone else has been in there, and it's like, wow, I'm not Satan. But that's the perfect scenario is, guess what? Trust you. Yeah. Trust us.
Yeah.
We've been in this game for a long time. And this is what makes me laugh. If we were going to pinch money, we'd have just set up an avoidance
in front of the camera right now, right?
I mean, exactly. So many people, Dre, I speak to Dre and he's like, have we been the idiots here, Rob? We look at all these people that are taking 15, 20 million, and I'm like, yeah, we're idiots in the fact that in hindsight, but That's what makes us who we are, is the fact that in all, and obviously it's tongue in cheek, but people have made that much money. We've been here long term, now we're nowhere near as big as everyone else, but our clients know what they get from us. Mm-hmm. Like, we've got agility, we've got the ability to, all our clients are different in terms of what they need.
Yeah.
But there's always someone that they can speak to. We'll always break our backs to help them, but guess what? We've always paid our liabilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's just the responsibility. Forget that it's a legal responsibility. That's how I'm raised.
It's a moral right, right? And I think that's it. I come from, that similar stock, if we want all these nice things, and I don't particularly want to leave the country, go and live in Belize, or something like that as in some sort of tax kind of haven. My life's here.
Agreed.
It's going to stay here. I kind of need the NHS. I kind of like the fact my nieces and nephews go to school. So do you know what? If I've got the ability to make sure the Exchequer gets what it's entitled to, like, we're not paying more, like, we're not optionally paying extra tax, then fine. Like, I would do that. I know what you're saying. There have been players in our industry that have taken advantage.
Yeah.
I think most of those players, if you think about it though, are probably only 2 or 3 people connected to all those different people.
Yeah. I was only last year I actually really sort of found out that it all funneled up and was like, holy shit.
Absolutely. And I think, we're not those people. Dre's not that person. I'm not that person. Yeah. There's lots of people in this industry that are doing it for the right reasons.
Oh yeah. And we're talking,
but the vast majority, or else we would have all exited 8 years ago with 10 million quid. Yeah. But we didn't. And we, because we are, it's the wrong thing to do. I want to build a 100-year brand. I don't want to build something that, disappears and blows up overnight. Like, that's just not me. It's why I joined the Indigo group. It's a big group. It's an established group that does the right thing. Yeah. It's the most important thing for me. I'm not going to go and work somewhere where I'm going to stay up at night. You know what I mean? Sweating it out, thinking someone's going to knock on the door, or I'm going to get dragged off of a plane at Gatwick.
Well, and look, I think we also need to be abundantly honest and blunt here. There are those that have always been doing, let's say, disguised remuneration models, whether that be the payroll entity themselves or whether that be a recruitment agency. That is not going to change. No. Economic uncertainty, do I dare say that you'll probably see some more businesses taking that risk? Unfortunately so. But ultimately, that's your choice as the business owner in terms of whether you decide to go down that route or not. What's your biggest challenge at the minute then for you and your business? And don't feel free not to answer that, given there's technically a competitor element. No, but as an industry,
I would say, look, I think the biggest thing is I think you've hit the nail on the head. It is messaging. It's messaging. It's realizing it's a priority. I'm talking to all the right people, and they're all willing to talk to me next year. Yeah. I'm like, cool, mate. We've got 8 weeks. Yeah. I've sat in some meetings recently where people have said, I've got a book of workers over here, but I have actually got another business over here, and that's got 1,400, 1,600, 1,800, whatever it might be, 3,000 people that aren't necessarily fully compliant. Fully compliant isn't a thing. You're either compliant or you're not. It's Boolean.
Agreed.
Like, stop saying it's
black and white.
It's maybe not. Yeah. It's just not right. So 8 to 12 weeks to deal with 3,000 or 4,000 people. When you're only one of my clients, I've got another 30 that I'm dealing with next week. Like, people need to understand that, if you're going to go to a decent player like ourselves and yourself, we need to get on with this, because it's a process. You've got to educate your workers, potentially as well. If the worst case scenario is you have had them on a scheme that leaves a lot to be desired, there's going to be a difference in take home pay. We saw that in R35, that is an emotional conversation, and one that your recruitment consultants are not trained or have any inclination to deal with. Yep. Our guys are trained to deal with it. We can talk about it. We can talk about the tax. We can talk about, obviously, it used to be salary sacrifices and mitigation, for the higher paid workers and that sort of stuff. That's obviously going to be less of a thing, but we're able to have those conversations. Let us have them, but that takes time. I remember during R35, our onboarding calls were anywhere between 15 to 18 minutes each. and we were onboarding 800 people a week during R35. Can you resource that? That's a bum on a seat I'm paying for.
No.
So let us do it. But why aren't we starting that conversation in January or February or March? Hasn't got to go live to April if they really don't want to, but we need to have the conversation. So yeah, having the conversation, people realizing they need to take some action is the biggest thing, not just sit there and hope that there's going to be an insurance product that comes out with a bit of software behind it.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the cost. I think it harps back to cost as well. And, how much can you mitigate without introducing, and certainly for us as umbrellas, there's insurance products being touted as that you and I will know about. Nothing's come to light yet. I don't want to pay 50 grand a year for that. I understand if it protects my supply chain, of course I will. If I can mitigate the need, to actually purchase that and demonstrate, well, actually everything's being done, then, any business, and I'm saying that as an example, I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do, by the way, but so it's just to cement what you've said there. But I think that's that fear still. It's that fear and that panic. And I think, again, it's almost like people are in disbelief about the budget. It's been, and it's almost, did that happen? Yeah. And you're right. It's like, well, now it's published. Like, we know what's coming. It is almost like,
deal with it.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, but it's time to pull your finger out a little bit, and
and we'll handhold,
give you a gentle nudge.
But we do all the work. In all fairness, so that is the service our industry delivers. We're not asking, your consultants to go and ring 400 people. Like, we will do a lot of that work, right? Like, your team will do it, my team can do it. Like, there's teams across the country that are decent umbrellas that will do that, but we do need commitment, and we need someone to say go.
Yes, pulling the trigger.
It's all it is.
I mean, I've been a little bit sneaky. It's December, so it's obviously Christmas. Go and say thank you to all us, right? Yeah. So we do 5,000 miles in December, but actually I'm double bubbling it. So I'm going in and I'm saying, like, right, I'm going to come in. I'm giving you this, but I'm taking a half hour of your time. It's important that you if you've got 20 minutes. So, like I say, I've seen that have some benefit. I'm conscious we're soon going to be coming to the end. Probably not great that I've said, but the employment rights bill. How much of a hindrance do you think that is at what is already going to be? I say a hindrance. I've probably been a bit unfair in my terminology there. From a business standpoint, and the costs that it is going to introduce to businesses is probably a much better way of saying it. I'm all for giving workers rights, and again, I do believe that the employment rights bill is enormously lopsided. I think consequentially, it will stop people employing, and I think that, again, it's a bit oxymoronic that you bring that in, and the potential outcome of that is that people aren't going to employ workers. So it's all a bit of a moot point.
I think for me, what this does do is it takes us back to, how many times have we looked at the word umbrella, right? What we do, if you break it down, the Americans have it right. We are a professional employment organization. Okay, we are professionally, we are good at employing people. I don't have any fear about any of my policies, procedures, your policies and procedures, your anything to do with employing somebody being incorrect. Costs, yes, we hit that on the head with SSP, but the rest of it, no, I'm not scared about it at all. And in fact, what I do think, and I do really recommend to agencies, and I recommend to even people that use temporary labour, why are you bothering taking that risk? Why aren't you just making us do it?
100%.
Because you know what, we're really good at it actually, and we actually, all that boring stuff that you hate, we're geeky about, and we quite like it. Like, so let us do it. But we are going to have to charge. We are going to have to make our businesses economically viable, like everyone else's businesses. I can't believe, and I don't, I think you sort of joined the industry quite a few years ago. I've never worked in an industry that charges less now than I did 15 years ago.
100%.
That's insane.
Well, we're the only industry that since COVID, that's put our prices down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've been talking about the economic challenges that COVID has given society in the country.
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely.
That's why I alluded at the beginning.
Yep.
Like, we have to put our prices up specifically for what you've just said there.
Yeah. But we're willing to take that risk. That's what we do. And we look after people. Okay. I know hand on heart that all those contractors that I look after and I payroll, and in previous, I've been in plenty of umbrellas across this last 15 years. If you rang up with a problem, someone gives a shit and someone helps you.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not saying recruiters don't. I'm not saying they don't, but it's also not their bag. Okay.
Agreed.
That is our bag.
Yeah,
we're a people-based business. We invest in it. So that could work for a recruiter, that we could help them de-risk by just actually, the silver bullet is actually to use umbrella for ERB, just is. Obviously, I know you've got JSL on top of that, so it's a bit of a difficult situation, but we are the silver bullet for that. And then you've got all these other entities. I'm speaking to quite a lot of hoteliers.
Right.
They use quite a lot of temporary staff without a recruitment agency in that supply chain, but they're petrified of the ERB. So now they're starting to understand, oh, okay, so you guys exist.
And and so they work through us. The employment rights
deal with it.
Is on us.
And we deal with it. And like you say, we don't have a problem with that. That is our model. We have been built for this. So let us do it. But you're right. There is going to have to be some look at the cost basis, because it goes up. You can't have your cost basis go up and your income go down for the last 10 years and then not get to a point where you're starting to break even and that's a good month. Like that's...
Well, with respect here, your umbrella or your payroll partner is going to go under.
Yeah.
Fact.
Yep.
And guess who's going to be left with the liabilities? I think we also need to be honest about, there is going to be casualties.
Yep.
And that is squarely because of the economic climate. Fact. Too many of us, too many don't want to just talk about the reality. We're all like country skin.
Yeah.
So, I read enough of what Neil Carberry is putting out. I understand. We understand anyway this year in terms of, you've alluded to it. I don't know anyone unless they've been acquiring umbrellas, who've literally
skyrocketed.
Gone on an upward, straight upward trajectory. So we also need to understand that there will be casualties.
Yep.
There will be casualties from a recruitment standpoint. Unfortunately, there are going to be umbrella owners that make the wrong decisions. Look, no business primarily goes under when you make sound, solid, responsible decisions.
Correct.
I'm sorry if people don't agree with that, but that's the reality. Even the big guns, who was the massive construction firm?
With
2018. Billions.
Carillion. Yeah.
Okay, they're never going under. Then they went under.
Too big to fail.
Right. And then you saw the decisions that the shareholders and directors made.
Yeah.
Fundamentally their fault.
Poor decisions, yeah.
Right. So, and I love that example because, and you've just, too big to fail. Nothing's too big to fail.
Nothing.
At all. No, I thought that was my wife. It's not.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've gone all clammy there.
Yeah, no.
So look, are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is it's not exactly what I've been wanting for the last 15 years. It's a stepping stone towards it. And if I've been shouting about it, I need to at least applaud someone who's done something about it. Don't get me wrong. I think the Conservative government would have been a little bit more aligned to what we all expected. But Labour inherited this. That's it. So I'm happy with it. They seem to get it and they're listening, and that's pretty rare. They listen more. I do a lot of lobbying. They listen a lot more than the previous government do. Whether it goes in, I don't know, but they listen, and they are aware of the issues of our space and actually the nuances of our space. They are looking at some things around the app levy and that sort of stuff, because we are disproportionately affected by lots of legislation. So part of the good thing about us becoming regulated is we are recognised as a industry, which means when they do come up with a new app levy or a new, I don't know, reporting requirement, we can go, just because we do have a £500 million turnover business, we're not really a £500 million pound turnover business. We've actually got £4 million to play with. They now get that central government. That's never happened before. So
I think,
I'm quite excited.
I think that's fair. And I have to say, and you and I commented after the first webinar, I don't think HMRC have ever listened in the way that they have.
Correct.
With all of this. I know there's lots of people here thinking, I don't fucking like them, but I have to doff my cap to them.
Yeah.
I really do, in terms of JSL in itself, the webinars, actually hearing it from the horse's mouth was, I mean, I've been doing this 23 years. I don't know how long you are. I've never heard HMRC confirm nor deny, so to speak. So to actually,
they are taking a stand.
100%.
I would appreciate them to remove their attack ads of umbrella, but that has been raised and brought up because they're not umbrella companies.
No, and
I think that's the key.
I've been saying that for 5 years to them, to government, to Bays as it was then. I know it no longer is, but that's been caused, I think, by media in our industry as much as anything else. Is we'll just call everyone.
It's just lazy,
though. It is.
But then it does affect
tarnishes
us.
everyone with the same brush. And that's why I never ever refer to them as umbrella companies, because they're just not.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I'm with you. Listen, is there going to be challenges? 100%.
This industry is resilient.
I was going to say
we are a resilient.
We've
bunch.
got some thick skin.
We do, and because we're doing it for the right reason. You're doing it for your daughter. Like, I want to build this 100-year brand. I want to, I want to be sitting there one day and, OVO sponsored the Spinnaker Tower. Like, I want that.
Do you?
I want that.
Yeah, good for you.
Why would I not want that? And I do want that sort of success. It means I've got to go through this pain, and I'm fine with that.
But then, you don't ever understand the good times without bad. You don't understand joy without pain. Yeah. And also it builds resilience, it builds character.
We're strong brands, and I think that's because we've gone through a lot.
Yeah, I mean, listen, some days I sit there and I think I want out. And then other days I'm like, I'm proud to work in here. Yeah. But do you know what? I've got ADHD. That's just my mindset. But I'm with you. Look, I think do you know what? I've genuinely really loved sitting down with you, mate.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
Thank you for being honest.
Always.
Do you know what? Some people come on and think, I don't want to say that, but actually it's been a bloody good conversation, mate. And as always, learned a lot from you, mate. Thank you for putting up with my phone being on the desk.
You're all right, mate.
We made it to the end.
It's super important. Call. That's much more important than we are.
No, honestly, but I think you're going to add your insight's going to add a lot of value at a time where you've quite rightly said people need to literally make the move and pull the trigger. It's easy for me to sit here as a host and say you should be doing A, B, C, and D. So as someone with your length of service, your pedigree and understanding, I think you're going to help a lot of people. So
absolutely, mate.
Genuine pleasure, Joe.
And you, mate.
Thanks very much, bud.
Thank you.
Congrats on OVO, mate.
Cheers.
As well.
Thank you, buddy. You'll be seeing a lot more.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm following you on LinkedIn for the next one. Hey, Jackie. Right, that brings us to the end. Thank you, as always, for watching. Delighted to bring you another episode. As always, you can follow us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And very much look forward to seeing you again. Many thanks. Goodbye.